Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the book of Ecclesiastes, and we're in chapter 2, verse 18. The experiment has been conducted in chapter 2, verses 1 through 11, the experiment of his life, Solomon's life. And now we're in the process, and we'll be in the process for the rest of the book, of processing the data. And so with any amount of data that you have, when you have, you go over the numbers and the facts and you have to draw conclusions, and you draw preliminary conclusions, and then you go back over the numbers and the data, and then you come at it from a different angle, and then you realize more, and then things become clearer the more you allow your brain to process, to digest fully the information that you have been given. But we're not there yet, and he's going to force us to go through the process with him. And so this process, which has its ups and downs, its highs and lows, its light and its darkness, is going to be one we have. This is a ride we have to take with him. And we're in the dark part of the ride right now. This is the darkest part of the ride. This is the darkest part of the tunnel. Because in this closed loop experiment of life under the sun, in which God is only referenced one time, and in which eternity is not permitted to factor in, we end up with a longing for eternity. I'm going to die. I'm going to die, just like everybody else. Just like Rose said to Cosmo, Cosmo, you're going to die. And therefore, what's the point if this is all there is? And he says, I hate life. I hated life. And he's giving vent to that. He's letting that feeling out. It's important for us to go into the depths with him vicariously, so that we don't go into them literally in our own lives and stay there and let that place hold us in its grip. So let's read verses 18 through 23. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Well, we know the answer to that. He was a fool. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This is also vanity. I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who didn't toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. So, at the end of the passage we were looking at yesterday, he realized that he could not hold on to the things that he had achieved, accomplished, acquired, or experienced in his life. And that made him despair and realized it was pointless. But then he has these next two realizations. The stuff that I leave behind, the stuff that I worked hard to achieve and accomplish, the stuff that I marshaled all of my resources and all of my power and all of my wisdom to achieve, I got to leave that for somebody. And this guy might be an idiot, and he didn't work for it, and he's going to enjoy it, and he didn't even work for it. And that really burns me up, on top of which he may just ruin it and bring it all to nothing overnight after I've spent my life building it. And that just burns him up as well, to the point that he's gone from despair really to rage. And he says, I can't even rest at night. But next time, verse 24, he's going to start to let some light in that God enters the equation. Not eternity yet, but God. God enters the equation. And that's going to make a difference. He's still going to have a lot of information to process, and he's going to still have moments of despair in which he, not just even personal despair, but we don't get to that low like we have here, although, there's a point at which he says, I wish I hadn't been born, but misanthropy. We are a doomed species. What's the point? But those are going to be increasingly more brief, and he's going to start in the next few verses to make some realizations about truth and about light and goodness. And in just a few verses, he's going to reject what he just said in the last few verses, that wisdom is no better than folly and that light is no better than darkness. He's going to assert the opposite in just a few verses. We're going to pick up with verse 24 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes.